Welcome. Tony's LPs are us. Cheers. It's not quite noon, almost noon, so I'm still having coffee. Might go see the new Tom Cruise movie later. There's a really nice cinema not too far from here, about a half hour, so I think I'm going to go do that this afternoon. But I wanted to do this video. I was on Facebook yesterday. I'm a member of Facebook Record Collectors group, or whatever you call it. It's got a lot of good input, and people post questions all the time. And this one gentleman posted a question: what album do you test your stereo with for best treble, best bass, best mid-range, best separation? And I said, oh, this is interesting. So I started scrolling down, looking at it. There were about, as of yesterday, it's been up for 2 days. As of this morning, there's about 100 participants, as far as I could tell, 100 Facebook people from the record collector, and maybe 400 entries. And all of these entries are responses and things like that. So I'm not really sure on specifically how many were actual record recommendations or album recommendations, but it was very curious. It was mostly classic rock, mostly what you would hear if you walked into a record store demoing speakers or demoing a system, or an audio show where they're demoing equipment and speakers and cables. A lot of it was the classic rock that we've been listening to for 25 years or more. So that was interesting, and I'm going to go over the list. I broke it down to the most frequent winners, and they're not surprising either. There was a few in there I didn't know about, and I'm gonna add a few of my selections that didn't make the list. And one person picked an album that I always pick to demo my equipment, but that was only 1 out of 100. So do my picks at the end, and I'm going to give you an idea of what people were picking, and then I'll break it down as far as most record suggestions to test your stereo. They didn't mention vocals. I like to also test the vocal soundstage, but in this particular case, it was bass, treble, separation, mid, and I guess you could in the middle there you could put vocal. So I'm just going to go over a few, and then I'll let you know what this unofficial survey, who came out like with the top 10, top 12. Okay, so you have Time Out, Brubeck, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, Donald Fagen, Nightfly, Anything Kraftwerk, The Cars, Moving in Stereo, Alan Parsons Project, iRobot, Roxy Music, Avalon, Supertramp, Breakfast in America. The 1812 Overture was the only one that was actually classical. And as you know, that has super dynamics if you have the right recording. I think there's a recording on Turbeck Records, classical record. I have it somewhere. Billy Thorpe, Children of the Sun. Never really, I knew Billy Thorpe, but never heard of that. Electric Ladyland, Hendrix. Everything Steely Dan, Floyd, The Final Cut. This was one that came up twice. Jellyfish, Split Milk, and the person early on and then later on in the survey, someone else did that. Jennifer Warren, Famous Raincoat, Famous Blue Raincoat, Anything Steely Dan, Royal Scam, Yes, Fragile. I use Last Stand by Led Zeppelin from Presence. Edgar Winter, They Only Come Out at Night. That's a great sounding record. That record is great. That particular track is a great sounding track. Supertramp, Crime of the Century, Floyd, Dark Side, Echoes, Floyd, another Dark Side, Led Zeppelin 2, The Who, Eminence Front. That's the only one out of 300 or 400. Frank Zappa, Grand Wazoo, Dark Side of the Moon, Radiohead, Kid. There's a couple Radiohead. Queen, Night at the Opera. Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits. Sade, Smooth Operator. That's a good one. Gilmore, Live in Pompeii. Styx, Crystal Ball. Chris Ree, New Light Through Old Windows. Santana, Abraxas, and the first Santana, Another Dark Side. Frank Zappa, One Size Fits All. Hi-Fi News, Test Record. Brain Salad Surgery, that came up quite a bit. Another Jellyfish, like I said, Power Station. I suppose he means the one with Banga Gong on it. Only Dylan to make the list was Oh Mercy. Couple Revolver by the Beatles. Sidewinder. Feet Don't Fail Me Now, Little Feet. This was a strange one because the fidelity isn't great, but the rawness of it and the power of it should be on any list. That's Exile on Main Street, which I love. Alan Parsons, Currents, Tame Impala, Tangerine Dream, Kinda Blue, which was the only other jazz record I remember. Beck, Sea Change. This is a good one. Graceland by Paul Simon. Boston, Anything Boston, Rick Wakeman. Alden in the Way, classic. Garcia, Tramp, Crime of the Century. Hall & Oates or Lionel Richie. Brain Salad Surgery. Roxy Music, Flesh and Blood. Who's Next? Ghost in the Machine. Either first two Traffic LPs, which I agree. Anything by Grace Jones. I know a few Grace Jones records that were basically disco flavored, and they're very hard to find. They go for big money. Cat Stevens, Catch Bullet 4. Rumors, Who Live at Leeds. Art of Noise. A couple of Earth, Wind, and Fire entries. Hot Buttered Soul, Anything, Allman Brothers. So you can see there's a lot of classic rock here. Early Beatles, The Wall, some Van Halen, 1984, Harvey Milk, Metallica, Stonehenge, 10 years after. That's really good for sound and separation. Peter Gabriel, Sledgehammer, good one. Rush Moving Pictures came out quite often. Cliff Richard, Sgt. Pepper again. Chicago, first Chicago album. Ramones, self-titled. I don't know about fidelity, but Ramones are great. Joe Jackson, Body and Soul. And Kenny Rogers, The Gambler, which is an odd one. Queen, again, 1812. Again, Can't Buy a Thrill. No one put Thriller on here, which I was surprised. That was one that I would have chosen. Michael Jackson's Thriller. Of course, Night Fly's on here. Goodbye Pork Pie, Jeff Beck. I would think the first 2 or 3 Jeff Beck albums with Rod Stewart, Truth, and Beckola. I would pick. Someone put ABBA. Someone put Alvin and the Chipmunks. Fresh Cream. Pepper Again. Bad by Michael Jackson, which is a good one. That's fidelity-wise, that's supposed to be great. So that gives you an idea of Phil Collins. So I'm going to show you the top picks, and I'll give you the numbers. This came up about 6 or 7 times. Dark Side. This is an OG. It's one of my copies. This has the posters. This came up. This is probably number 2 or number 3. Asia. This came up 6 or 7 times. And Steely Dan came up 6 or 7 times. That's my little note I put on the back. This came up. This was probably number 1. This came up at least 8 times. And you can see this is an OG with the original Alwick Record Store, which was a record store in New Jersey. I think they had a couple of stores. And has a hype sticker for Money for Nothing, Walk of Life. This came up 4 or 5 times. Peppers, Sgt. Pepper's. This is my original stereo with the original inner. must have 20 copies of Pepper in different variations of presses. This one came up about 3 or 4 times. Roxy Music, Avalon. Great album, of course, classic. I believe that what we're holding here is a Japanese pressing, which sounds really, really good. Avalon. Alan Parsons came up quite a bit, so I pulled an Alan Parsons to show the VCers. And if you like my channel, please like and subscribe. We're trying to build the channel, but I appreciate all the support I've been getting. A lot of views. I put a lot of content out, and I see some folks don't put a lot of content out. But I have a lot of ideas, and I just need to express them with you guys. And I love watching other people's videos. I have a few favorites I watch, and I scroll through. I try to subscribe to the new channels, even the channels that have 20,000 subscriptions. I subscribe, so I'm notified. And cheers. So please do that if you can. I subscribe and like, and I appreciate it. And I, hope you guys are enjoying this. This one came up about 3 or 4 times. The Power Station, I'm assuming it's this one. Power Stations. This is, like I said earlier, that was from an informal Facebook question of record collector group. I would suggest you look at it. It's a great group. It's not, everyone's pretty cool about it. There's not a lot of sarcasm. There's a lot of new folks, I could tell from their questions, a lot of new folks that just maybe are introduced to vinyl the last few years. And there's a lot of old timers like me and you guys out there that, have stuff for 50 years. This one made the list 4 or 5 times. Rumors, this is a reissue. Could see the hype on it. I'm not sure if this was a Walmart or a Target, but still a drink. And this is pretty good. I have I have the original. I don't have the 45 RPMs. I didn't buy them. I held off. But that's this. And Boston. Anything Boston. Of course, the first album I would choose over the second and third album. But those are the top out of the list I read. Those were the top. So you could see there's really nothing in there that's new. There's nothing in there that's, wow. What was in there was a Random Memory. Forget the name now, but that was in there a few times. And I don't have that. That won a Grammy a few years ago. That record, it was supposed to sound really good. There was a Beck record that won Grammy Record of the Year that's supposed to sound good, but it only came up once. Earth, Wind, and Fire came up quite a bit, 3 or 4 times. Zeppelin a few times, but nothing that I'm thinking, let's think outside the box. I could pull 20, and I just pulled maybe 5 or 6 of my favorites that if a person's just coming over to listen to music and my stereo hasn't, hasn't yet heard it, and hopefully they'll sit in a sweet spot. Hopefully they'll tell me I can't tell the difference. Hopefully they're open for it. One of my best sounding records that have everything, which I didn't pull, is a 45 RPM of Casino Royale, the first Casino Royale film with Peter Sellers and Woody Allen. It's a spoof, but Herb Alpert did the music, and Dusty Springfield sang The Look of Love. And that's one of the best sounding records for treble, bass. It's just across the board. So no Elvis made the list, which is not surprising, but there's early Elvis albums. Albums sound really good. Okay, anything Bill Porter engineered, and I give that to hats off to my friend Tony G, who is a genius as far as picking engineering, picking rooms to that sound the rooms are an instrument in itself. I learned a lot from just talking to Tony about that. This is a record that never makes a list, but this record, this has everything: treble, hi-hat, bass, vocal, separation. That's only because of this one track that I love, Masterpiece. It's 13:54, 13 minutes and 54 seconds. This is a true classic on, this is Motown or Tamla, Gordy. This is on Gordy. But Temptations, Masterpiece, OG pressing, that's just phenomenal. This record made the list once. I would have picked it as top 5. Machine Head, right there. Deep Purple. And it's not I think I have a green one or some, but this is the winner of this incarnation. But this is definitely incarcerated here in plastic. So this is a gatefold. It has the inner. Now this record didn't make it, or this group didn't make it at all. And I would say Jailbreak with Phil Lennox, the four lineup: Scott, Brian, and another Brian Robertson, right there. This has it all. This sounds super. It's a great record. It's almost a perfect record. Jailbreak. This record is pretty obscure, but it has stereo separation, bass, treble, Dr. John, and this has In the Right Place, the hit. And this is either a trifold or a gatefold. This is a trifold, which I'll show you right there. Pretty cool. Right Place, Wrong Time. Let's basically put Dr. John on the pop map. This album charted. This is one that didn't make it. I'm not sure if anybody picked this band, but this record and the record before it, I love. I'm trying to think of the name. But I always put on this one, and I think it's the Shelly, is it Yakis, or the engineer who recorded. It's just a fantastic. This is probably a Sterling or an RL mastered, but this one has it all. This one, especially the Don't Fear the Reaper. Don't Fear the Reaper is such a good song. There's actually a documentary on it on YouTube. That's like a 40-minute documentary. That's fantastic. The way they recorded that record, and it paid off because it sounds so good. And they're from Long Island. They're American. They're New York. Blue Oyster Cult. And I believe some of the guys are still touring. I think they were locally, and I missed them. One of the local venues had them not too long ago, and I missed them. But that's it. So this was just a little, quick video. And please, I know it takes a lot of effort and time and things, but if you have time, please just comment on what records you use to test your stereo for whatever reason, just for treble, bass, mid-range, things like that, just to make your stereo sound good. So, quick video. Thanks again for stopping in. Have a great day, and please subscribe if you can, and we'll be seeing you soon. Keep trucking. Cheers. Thank you.